Let us execute an immediate sweeping analytical vector shift away from the multi-century Gothic bloodlines of Paris, immortal rock superstars, and ancient vampire covens, and descend directly into the high-stakes, calculation-heavy tracking grids of contemporary urban task forces, weaponized religious fanaticism, and the deeply protective world of elite psychiatric profilers, shielding their partners from savage metropolitan exposure. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, rain-slicked pavement of Washington, D.C., exclusive political fundraising galas, and the lethal analytical parameters of an intensely sensitive, media-monitored serial killer execution matrix with sacred sins, the exceptional pulse-pounding structural deployment anchoring the globally dominant, chart-topping romantic suspense catalog engineered by the absolute undisputed sovereign of gripping domestic tension, elite investigative partnerships, and masterclass narrative momentum, Nora Roberts. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, underestimated female protagonist asset running a strict psychological field loop, a powerful, dangerously territorial homicide detective civilian ally, and an absolute defense of a capital city's final personal sovereignty metrics collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn police procedurals where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of corrupt institutional politics, deceptive high-society inner circles, and a deadly ring of active administrative or social gaslighting while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised Washington elite ecosystem where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated forensic boundaries, and absolute mental stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory serial killer network, and where the author utilizes an incandescent madman priest persona strangling elite women with a white silk scarf leaving scrawled sins diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits, this book is engineered to lock you in. Roberts completely dominates the gritty precinct streets meet unrivaled psychological opulence dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating institutional paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like J.D. Robb, Karin Slaughter, Iris Johansen, and Patricia Cornwell, while treating realistic behavioral forensic logistics, complex professional alignment arcs, and protective high society extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse couple, prominent psychiatrist Dr. Tess Court, and her elite law enforcement counterasset, Detective Ben Paris, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of massive media circus tracking, deep-seated institutional vulnerabilities, and a hyper-visible targeting profile by the capital's ruling political capos. Behind Tessa's rigorous psychiatric profile footprint logs and tense clinic ledger entries lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried historical secrets, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Tessa's collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a lifetime of rigorous academic achievement and structural clinical focus, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from rival bureaucratic departments, parsing complex behavioral shifts from her powerful, fierce, street-hardened partner, and shielding her vulnerable professional autonomy nodes from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. A terrifying predator dubbed the Priest begins systematically executing prominent women, leaving behind a calling card that forces the mayor to mandate an immediate high-stakes task force merger between Ben's street tradecraft and Tessa's behavioral analysis. As the hidden killer's calculation-heavy elimination phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier, a series of suspicious administrative sabotage attempts, targeted witness frame-ups, and calculation-heavy media ambushes threaten to permanently eliminate Tess from the active investigator registry. The official diagnostic metrics of the global tracking centers flash white-hot when her defensive maneuvers and raw psychological output reveal that her investigation into a twisted religious obsession is radically, impossibly altering the city's historical balance of power. The standard boundaries of routine municipal jurisdiction and peaceful high society compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonist run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active invisible war across DC, where deceptive elite families, highly manipulative media anchors, and a calculation-heavy underground black market supplier launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress their survival data stream. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the exclusive federal townhouses, dark alleyway crime scenes, and private fortified residential chambers into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Ben is purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy his massive intuitive tracking skills, overwhelming primal aura, and persistent analytical dominance to break her perimeter and preserve her focus, only to realize her hidden internal grit matches his own dark nature step for step. Our protective psychiatric protagonist is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, behavioral scanning skills, and raw physical stamina to maintain her boundary lines before the next competitive cleanup phase permanently deletes her progress. Every midnight archive excavation, every silent choice to stand off against an arrogant political mogul behind standard security barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the Dark Elite's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Roberts reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial setup or managing a toxic executive partnership. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of institutional hierarchy and high society supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their volatile union, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shift the clock into its terminal phase, proving that historical emotional hazards have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient hero must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a psychological police procedural romantic suspense masterpiece, federal murder mystery, high-velocity contemporary Noir puzzle that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one-whispered confession triggers a fatal precinct showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active task force tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes interrogation confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite detective protector has completely mapped your personal biological coordinates carries massive structural weight. Roberts writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the cold, metallic hum of standard-issue precinct electronics, the oppressive, heavy atmosphere of an elite clinic suite before a major media leak, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, expensive silk scarves, fine leather, burning high-tech servers, cold rain-slicked pavement, spilled copper, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this benchmark entry into elite area is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Sacred Sins is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary fiction and intense procedural suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputtable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the